what we have covered in the previous discussions pretty much covers what you have to basically know regarding decision support systems and executive information systems, as Raymond Thurman what to say. What we will do today is reinforce the three basic ideas which are fundamental to decision making and therefore decision support systems. In a sense, understanding and interpretation of these three fundamental ideas will give you a way forward on how to implement decision support systems. Because as I keep saying, decision support systems or executive information systems are not your traditional systems. In the sense, they don't work in a much structured way. There is a lot of unstructured data which needs to be handled, and your interpretation on what these systems mean will have a huge influence on them. Therefore, what I am going to do today is reinforcing the three basic ideas which I personally feel are central to this discussion of decision support systems. Somebody there very good. Okay, I'll start with what is not there, and I'll see how people will verify. We'll start with Hamlet. Akhirallah, I am very sure. See, the basic limitation, Hamlet, Shakespeare's Hamlet. I wanted to make one point very clearly, that whenever we talk about decision, we normally think that decision making is a mutually exclusive duality kind of a process. How do we think about decision making? What is the ultimate outcome of decision making for us? Yes or no? We always think that any decision to be taken should always result in either of this. Taking a very clear stand on yes or no. Point is, this is basically the way in which the Western philosophy has evolved, and that is their basic limitation. For more, please look at this statement. To be or not to be, that is the question. Very famous statement. A big monologue comes in Hamlet, where he says, the opening lines are this: to be or not to be, that is the question. So the result of any decision making is always to either this or that. See our formulations of anything, in religion as well as in culture. There is always heaven, there is hell. There is always good, there is bad. And there is something more interesting. If not this, then automatically it is that. If not heaven, then hell. If not good, then bad. So you have considered this as the default kind of decision making theory. This or that. If you want more clarity on this, please recall what George Bush used to always say. He used to always say that you are either our friends or you are against us. So there is only two possibilities. You can either make friendship with that country or you will be considered as an enemy state. Right? Always in decision making we take the stand that either one of the choice should always be correct. 0, 1. Not 0 is 1. We don't think so. India, we don't think so. That is why in a bitterly bipolar world in which India came into existence, world was a bitterly divided bipolar world then. India took the lead of starting the non-aligned movement. Panchashil, recall all that. Why could India do that? because we understand that decision making need not depend on any two isolated states. We understand that there is a difference. For example, take this friend enemy kind of thing. If somebody asks, "Are you my friend?" If you say no, does it automatically mean you are his enemy? No. Necessarily we here understand that there are possibly 5 states of any given object or a situation. Speaking more formally, between 1 and 0, the two extremes, we don't believe in Boolean logic. Boolean logic is not 1 is 0, we don't believe in that, or not 0 is 1, we don't believe. Between 0 and 1, I personally feel there are 5 states, including 0 and 1. 0 is one state. Not 0 is an independent state. Not 1 is one more state. 1 is one more state. Neither 0 nor 1 is one more state. So there are 5 states according to us. Take this friend enemy example. There can be 5 status which you can choose. I am your friend, status 1. I am not your friend, status 2. I am not your enemy, status 3. I am your enemy, status 4. I am neither your friend nor your enemy, state number 5. Possible? So, what I first understand is to break this burden of thinking everything in the map of duality. Simply does not exist. To think beyond that, and decision support systems will usually incorporate such ideas. Today's information systems don't. They either give a yes/no decision. For example, should a new plant be built? Come on, you can't expect a yes/no answer for this question. The solution should go beyond that and think of all possible states. This is only possible in this kind of mentality. That's what I first feel. That's the first point which I had. There is a second point which I wanted to emphasize in the class. That is, always understand that the person who is taking the advice has all the liberty to make the choice. This is again which is not understood in the Western concept. India understands this problem. Imposing a solution on a person who is asking for a solution is not Indian. I always keep saying this. If somebody asks you a problem, you are not supposed to give him a solution. Instead, you should present him a bunch of solutions from which he should select one. Addu gode mele deepa idodu ninge hedu. Adalla, what I am saying is, believe in the ability of the person to take decision. This always happens. Maybe now only you may have started this process. Next year you will definitely do this by this time. Yes, but we play for you. Should I do this? Should I join this company? Should I go into MBA? Should I do MS? Saturday is my meet the alumni, solve their grievance day. On Saturday again, now also there were some people asking for everything. One particular request came from a student recently. That student wanted to do some certification course or something. The student was asking me, what should I do, sir? I told there are a bunch of options before you as usual. You can do MCSE, you can do CCNA, you can do that certification. According to your interest, you select whatever you want. Student ignored me. Sir, upon completion of which certificate do you think I can earn more? Now after question answer me. I can't answer such questions. So I think modern decision making of young people largely depend on how much is their earning capability. It's very wrong way to start your career. Let's not bother. What I am saying is, whenever a problem has to be solved or whenever a decision has to be taken, you don't take the decision on behalf of others. Allow others to take the decision. This principle is reinforced in Indian thinking again and again. one example. I always consider that the most sacred work which has ever come from India, the Bhagavad Gita, is a classical example of decision making. It's a decision making textbook actually, Bhagavad Gita. There was a problem. Problem was Arjuna felt very scared in the battleground. He had a question. Should I go and fight and kill my relative? Or should I run away? Question. He had to take the decision. Real-time decision making. Right? Everybody is ready to kill and now he has a problem. Real-time problem solving. Best example. What did Krishna do? Krishna did not give him answer at all. Critical situation. Poor guy is asking, should I fight or not? What should Krishna do? Krishna didn't answer the question. Krishna answered the question in a very different way. I think that's a very good lesson for all of us. First, he blasted that day. Why are you asking this question? Is it fair on your part to ask this question? Money making is a very clearly Krishna says, Utasva Kashmala Vidam Vishame Samupastitam Anali Dushtam Aswargyam Akirtikaram Arjuna. You are such a great man, now you will spoil all your name now by asking such question whether I should run away or not. This guy does not listen. Again started, no, you tell me he is my brother, he is my grandfather, how can I kill him? Krishna does not answer number one. He starts explaining. Jata say Dhruvam Janmamrta Secha. All of them who are born should die. So you don't worry. They know Spinyata, they come. People are born as small kids, then they grow, then they become old, then they will die. Once they die, again they will be reborn. Where is the answer for the question? Question is, should I fight or not? Krishna is explaining all this. Again, the guy is extremely confused. This guy won't click. He says, how should he become? You should become a very nirvana kind of state, stable mind. He is not their friend. He explained the most important characteristic of such a guy. Such guys who reach nirvana, it seems, meaning, when the whole world sleeps, this guy will be awake. And when everybody is awake, that guy will sleep. That person is called a real enlightened soul. Our friend is an enlightened soul. But he is not there. Maybe he is continuing his advanced meditation. Practice is meant to. See, what people try for years together, he has got it automatically. You should actually appreciate it. My point is very simple. Krishna does not answer the question directly. Should I fight or not? Krishna answers all these questions. Then he goes on to say, no, I am that, I am this. Then he shows his Virat Rupa. Come on. The guy is totally terrified there. He wants an answer from you. And you are terrified him by showing your Vishwarupa and all. See, I am like this. I am doing all that, finally he comes. Next semester, I should offer an open electric Bhagavad Gita. Open electric Bhagavad Gita. TV night. This guy is spoiling the secular environment of the college by teaching all the subject. PhD, RSS and all. But then I didn't talk about it. People will say, you belong to Sri Ram Seni, you pick up on it. Why? It's good. My point was, if you consider one strong point, one lesson which you can learn from Indian way of thinking, I think it is this. I keep on saying this. We never force anything on anyone. Even at that situation, Krishna does not say what to do. At the last, he says, you do whatever you want. 18th chapter ಹೋಗ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಮೋಕ್ಷ ಸನ್ಯಾಸ ಯೋಗ. Then he says, now I have told you some 4-5 ways. See how scientific it is. Recall our yesterday's discussion. We told that whenever there is a problem, you have to give multiple solutions. Krishna does that. So Krishna should also be considered as a very good engineer. He gave multiple solutions to the problem. One solution, no solution. He knew that. Finally, he says, Yata Ichasi Tata Kuru. Whatever you feel is good, you do that. These are the ways in front of you. I think this one lesson, if you learn very correctly, that is respecting others' ability to take decision and you proposing multiple solutions to the problem. I think we have understood most of what is to be understood in decision making. That is second lesson. So first lesson was ಎಲ್ಲ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು. ಬರೀ ಲೆಸನ್ಸ್ ಹೇಳೋದು ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು. ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಲೆಸನ್ ಏನು ಹೇಳ್ಬೋದು? ಒಳ್ಳೆ ಚಿಕ್ಕ ಮಕ್ಕಳ ಥರ ಸೆಕೆಂಡ್ ಸೊಲ್ಯೂಷನ್. Third lesson which I want all of you to know very clearly is that decision making becomes very simple if you have some first principles. First principles. Individually and as a group. If you have some first principles, I will never violate this. Some basic first principles. You should always take the decision in a very simple manner. You should see whether you are breaking those first principles or not. Let me give an example. As a matter of fact, if you consider what religion is, what culture really means, it actually does this. See, when I go and want to eat something, every time I need not question whether I should eat this or not. There are some first principles in my religion. Based on that, I decide what to eat, what not to eat. Correct? Everything, if you see, finally boils down to accepting certain first principles. My earnest request is, as early as possible, try to adopt some first principles for yourself. Then your life will be very simple. You know, principle, like, I will always do like this, or I will not do like this. So that future decision making becomes simple. I have one of my life's first principles are very simple. First principle is I don't give advice to anyone, nor I take advice from anyone. Don't give advice, don't take advice is my first principle. After I don't give advice to anyone. So, if you follow these three principles, that is, give multiple solutions, respect the person's ability to take decision, and adopt certain first principles so that, see, if you take anything, socialism, I believe in socialism. My decision making becomes very simple. I don't drink bottled water. Why? Socialism. I will never step into a mall. Why? Socialism. I can never drink, what is that? Fizzy drink. Why? Socialism. Mapping becomes very simple. So, the earlier I adopt, the easy it is to take decisions. And so you should follow these three principles in decision making. That's the first thing I wanted to say. Second topic which I wanted to briefly touch upon, the emerging idea of group decision support systems. Rainer Turbulis Potter do mention about it, but they don't go in detail. But I think that is one area where we have to look with a bit of seriousness, because group decision making systems are becoming a reality. Let me tell you from my own example. In the free and open source world, the software is built by volunteers who are scattered all across the globe. So the team is distributed. Any decision which is to be taken, how do you take the collective opinion of the people is a question. There are various techniques. For example, one vote per person, or if you take United Nations kind of a principle, everyone has one vote, but some people who have some special status will have a veto. Security Council has a veto in United Nations. You can follow there are many possibilities of group decision making which we have not discussed. I leave it to you to do two things. One is to explore the ways of doing group decision, and second, how to implement these ideas in an information system. Because it is very much possible today due to web and networking. So I leave it to you to explore these two. That leaves me with case studies now. Case studies of this chapter are again very diverse. Speaks about how these kinds of systems are used in many places. The first case is how decision support systems can be used in sports. Of course, a very relevant case for us because I have this curiosity on how these franchisees will select players for their teams during meeting. How will they do? There are some basic norms. I want these many batsmen. I want a wicket keeper, I need bowlers. That's fine. Beyond that, how will you select? There is one possible way. That is, you fix that this is the amount I will spend. Then choose the players till you reach that amount. This becomes a knapsack problem actually. Classical knapsack problem. But do you think any franchisee will simply select players like this? No. I should do a lot of thinking. For example, depending on what others choose, my strategy should keep on changing. Whether I need a left arm wrist spinner depends on the others' combinations, what others are choosing. So, the case number 1 which is discussed with respect to NHL, I think is very, very relevant to Indian scenario today. Can you develop a decision support systems which has the database of all players, runs scored against team, whatever condition you want, his physical condition, when was the last time he had underwent a surgery, all these are important statistics for him. All things can you collect and build a decision making model for selecting a player. This can be a very good 8-semester project. If your system is very good, you can sell it to someone and make loads of money on it. Very relevant problem. That's case number 1. Case number 2, again is one problem which all of us have studied. Problem relating to group management. The particular case is with respect to a company which collects waste from people and then manages it, a waste management company, which has to travel from house to house to collect the waste. And how optimally you can reorganize their routing algorithms. Shortest path algorithm and other things you are very much familiar. Can you use all of them to make a decision making model so that the company can optimally use their resources? That is the case. Case number 3 and 4 are quite similar. Case number 3 is related to an insurance company. Case number 4 is the case relating to Ford. The problem is same. You have multiple dealers selling your automobile or selling your insurance policies. Consider that you have 400-500 dealers. All of them will operate independently. You as a company wants to have an integrated view of what they are doing. Without using an executive information system which we discussed with drill down facility and all, what will happen? Whatever data they send, it comes to the headquarters, it will be processed. The trends will be sent back to the dealers. It will take long time. The point is, what will happen if you integrate all of them together and give them the ability to analyze the data in the real time? It will obviously help them to take better decisions. That is the case. One with respect to insurance, one with respect to automobiles. I will discuss chapter 10 case and then come to the 5th case. Chapter 10 case is also quite similar. It relates to the fashion industry. Because automobile is still okay. You can sell the auto even automobile even after 2 years, say after the release. But fashion trends keep on changing. So if you are in fashion industry, it is very important for you to identify and spot the current fashion trends, report it back to the company, and company should respond to it as fast as possible. This should happen more or less on a day-to-day basis. You should know the demand. Then you should manufacture only that many items. Because that trend, if it goes off, who will buy those dresses? The challenge refers to fashion industry and how quickly they respond to changing needs of the customer and how information systems can help them. That is discussed. See the variety of industries that we are discussing. This is all on one side. The last case of this chapter is what is very, very important for me, because I hope all of you should think more on this. The case refers to using decision support system in the health industry. Health industry. It has been proposed from a long time that computers can replace doctors for diagnosing something. People have been speculating. Remember the days of ELISA? To now. People have been saying that given today that most of the diagnosis that we do, the lab diagnosis, the result of which is available electronically, can the computer do the analysis and tell me what the problem is? More than that, can it prescribe solution? This has been tried out. My personal stand on this